Tron Ares finally got its first official trailer, and it broke records. #1 trending on YouTube, and this caught everybody by surprise. If you're a Tron fan like me, you know that it is a forgotten franchise. Nobody talks about it. At the time of recording, we're at 10 million views. So this exceeded expectations in every way, and in this video, we're going to be breaking down everything you might have missed, as well as comparing it to the original trailer. This scene with the light cycles and the police cars, this was also in that first trailer, but it's obviously in higher quality. We're with it a little bit longer, and it looks so good. This light wall slashing through the cop car, it's perfect. When you get close to the light cycle, you'll see this like flickering pattern on the wheels. I've seen some people online complain about it. It's actually not that bad. If you look at Legacy, it's not exactly there, but it is kind of similar. In my opinion, it won't be super distracting, but one thing that is distracting a little bit is this kind of light bulb in the center. Some people think that it is an engine, and I have to agree. Now, it could be a MacGuffin for the film later on, but I highly doubt it. At the end of this scene, we actually get a close-up of Leto's character, Ares. Now, some have theorized that this is Sam Flynn, since Garrett Hedlund has a similar vein in his photos, but yeah, this is definitely not him. It's Leto for sure. This same scene was in the first trailer, and it was shown right before Ares takes a right turn in front of the cop car, so it's clearly him, especially since earlier on in that first trailer, we see Ares activate his light cycle baton. So this is definitely Ares and his second in command with the army, Athena. Now, as much as I would like this to be Sam and Cora, it unfortunately isn't, and it just wouldn't make sense to see them in red, and we'll return to Sam later, but I want to focus on this big scene right here, which could possibly be a rectifier, loading dock, cargo station, or an entirely new ship. And then the next shot obviously shows the portal and the drones are going towards it. I only bring this up simply because in the first two films, the rectifier intercepts the solar sailor. I don't know why they would reference it but not go through with it in the third film. You can see some solar sailors. I think there's like 2 of them maybe, and of course there's other ships, but you also see water as well. You see that there's a light skimmer, which was a planned vehicle for Tron Ascension, the failed version of this movie, and on that light skimmer you actually see Ares and Eve Kim, which is Greta Lee's character, because in earlier footage we see her in a white Tron suit putting her hand up and getting assistance from somebody else, likely Ares, maybe somebody else. But as I just talked about the light drones heading towards the portal, we actually see them again later on multiple times. We see them against the military next to the recognizer, and this is all happening next to the NCOM building, which is just so cool. And also we see on the streets they're flying around near the cars, but at the same time of all this, there's police cars again, and they're getting rammed with this light tank looking vehicle. Now this is very likely the DART, which it's an acronym for a vehicle that's being introduced in this film. This photo from like a few months ago with Jared Leto's character came out in Empire magazine, and they said that this was the DART. And it's also been seen in set photos and videos that came out last year. We saw Jodie Turner-Smith's character Athena coming off of that, but I like how we're introducing new ideas, old ideas, ideas that were never properly introduced in the franchise. And I say this because some ideas like the light skimmer we went over came from the original script, which was Tron Ascension, and also ideas from the canceled game Tron 3.0, which was going to be a continuation of Tron 2.0. Now I want to focus on Evan Peters' character for a little bit, because in the first trailer he actually got the most speaking lines. We'll sum it up real quick. He was talking about how the virtual world is going to come to us, we're not going to them. But in this trailer we just see him standing in possibly a recognizer or on his own grid that he created, and he kind of looks concerned or shocked, and this could be like a turning point maybe, because I believe he'll be the villain for the first 1 or 2 acts, and then there will be a shift towards the third act, and then maybe Athena or someone else will take over as the main villain. And that would be great, keeping the tone of the previous movies, because obviously Dillinger Sr. is kind of the main villain until the MCP manipulates him. In this version, Dillinger, he's been transported to the grid, he sees he's messed up completely, and in other footage you can see sand type of texture, there's a hand that touches it, and there's a shot of him looking down, maybe scared even. And this connects to a scene in this trailer where Athena seems to be getting derezzed, and it looks kind of like the snap from Infinity War. They're possibly going for that effect rather than them just turning into cubes like glass, which I'm not a big fan of that change if that's what we're doing. But then again, this scene of Athena could also be her being transported to the real world or back to the grid. It could be either or, and I don't think this is a character being rezzed or digitized into our world, simply because we saw Leto's character rezzing up while Flynn was talking, and that looked quite a bit different than what was happening to to Athena. Now during that scene, actually, I want to go over this. You can see it looks like it's either on the grid or it's possibly in the real world in a recognizer. And obviously Flynn says there's no going back during this, but I don't think that that line connects to the scene we're seeing. If this is taking place in the Dillinger grid, and from the previous footage, we know Flynn is in the original NCOM grid. So it wouldn't really make sense that Flynn is helping him get to the real world. I think what's more likely is Flynn is helping him maybe get more power for the final battle, or change his DNA to exist in the real world easier, something like that. It could be something entirely different, but I don't think it's related to what we're seeing on the screen. And obviously I just mentioned NCOM and Dillinger grid. We know for sure we're getting at least 2 grids in the movie. I don't know about the legacy grid. I really hope we do, but we don't know for sure, unfortunately. But we do know that there are going to be multiple different types of identity discs. We're going to continue to have these circular discs from the first 2 movies, but we're also going to get a triangle disc. And the director did comment on the triangle disc. We've obviously seen it in the footage, in the posters. He explained that Tron fans really do want the circular disc still, that this is a huge change, and he made sure that we still got those, but we also wanted to evolve it and give Ares a special weapon. It's probably more dangerous than the typical circular disc. They're not going to just change the shape for no reason. There's going to be an explanation on why it's different. Maybe it's faster, maybe it has more damage, but because we're keeping circular discs, it's very possible the legacy grid is continuing on in this movie, and we could get something kind of like a Crisis on Infinite Grids, like a multiverse thing. That would be wild. And those aren't the only quotes coming from the director, as there's another one regarding Ares. This film shows Ares wanting to be quote unquote a real boy, kind of like Pinocchio, and he's going to be seeing the world through fresh eyes for the very first time. And obviously we've kind of gone over this beforehand, but to hear him talk about it, it is an interesting perspective. Also with specific shots in the first trailer that I never really talked about, I never really thought about, and it's just a snowy mountain, and we also see oranges, and I'm thinking maybe this is at the beginning of the film. Greta Lee's character is just out there for some reason, but since she's a programmer at NCOM, it's very likely that she takes Ares out there to explore the world, see its maximum potential, and this is kind of the character building section of the movie, maybe during Act 2 possibly, right before everything goes wrong. That's my speculation though, we really don't know. And those 2 quotes from the director came from an Empire magazine article, and there was a new image of Ares in it. And when looking closer at the image, it's not just Ares, you can also see his disc at the edge of the left. It's hovering, and it looks very similar to Sam when he got suited up and got his disc. So this could be a moment where maybe he's connecting to something for communication, kind of like Tron in the IO Tower in the first movie, or he's receiving this upgraded disc after maybe having a circular one. But as for the setting of this is obviously Center City, NCOM's here, craziness is happening here, the military's called, they're attacking the recognizer and the drones. Now we see a bunch of employees, probably in the NCOM building and other buildings, looking outside as the recognizer pulls in. We see Anderson's character. Now I have seen some people theorize that this is Cindy Morgan's Laura character. Unfortunately, Cindy Morgan passed away, rest in peace, but this could be her character recasted, but I don't see how she would be in this movie and not Alan Bradley. That doesn't make too much sense to me. It's probably a new character. It could be that she's the new CEO of NCOM, or she's part of Dillinger Systems. And while we're on the topic of Center City, there's a interesting theory I saw online from this Reddit user right here, suggesting that rather than the grid coming to us, it's kind of like they're blending together, like maybe a satellite is digitizing all of Center City, putting it into Dillinger's grid, and that's where the craziness is happening. And I'm not opposed to this idea. That's decent too, because there's criticism from people saying that we don't want this to be in the real world. We want to go in the grid the entire movie, and that is completely understandable. I think it's more likely the majority of the movie is going to be in the real world. Now I want to focus on Ares and Eve's relationship, because I think that's going to be a huge part of this movie, because obviously we know that Ares is a version of Master Control program. We see in this scene that Ares' circuitry is flickering, and from the first couple movies we know that when programs lights start to flicker, it means that they're not doing so well. They might be dying soon, they're seriously injured. Flynn would use his user power to heal them, like in the case of Yuri. I think it's possible that Eve is using her user power to kind of tether Ares to this world, maybe heal him. It's kind of a cringe idea, it's kind of out there, but I think it is kind of an interesting concept. And obviously by the end of this movie, movie, we know that it's very likely that Ares is going to turn sides and he's going to be more of not necessarily a hero, but kind of like an anti-hero. He's not going to be a villain anymore. I went over this a lot beforehand because there's a lot of evidence that backs this up. Now, this scene with Ares and Eve does happen at a building that says Dumont, which obviously, if you remember, Dumont is from the first movie, and that sign was also where Sam lived as well. And this, along with the Ducati bike shown in the reshoots later on, there's a slight chance that Sam Flynn might get at least a cameo. And that would be cool because if this movie does well, Sam and Cora could get a dedicated Tron 4 just following their story, and that would be so awesome. And the last thing I got to bring up is the soundtrack. This sounds amazing. It fits the epic action so perfectly. Obviously, it's a little different. It's a little more dark, hardcore, but I'm totally on board for this. I'm looking forward to hearing more. Hopefully get a full trailer with a full track, kind of like the previous Tron Legacy trailers. And what I like about this trailer is that it doesn't give the plot away like Legacy did. By the time we hit trailer 3 in that version, the whole thing was given away. We knew it was going to happen, but I have no doubts this is going to be a fantastic movie. I was a little concerned with the rough CGI the first time, but it looks just like Legacy, possibly better, and I hope that you guys are just as excited as I am. But if you guys want to see my first few videos going over Tron 3 and also Tron Uprising, they're on the channel and they're right here.